And shalom, everyone, shalom. This is Deacon Sampson, one of the teachers with King James Bible University. And I'm coming at you with a public service announcement to let it be known, clarified, and understood that we at King James Bible University have no dealings with, no ties to any Christian organization, any building, worshiping, or gathering, organization, no pseudo-Israelite camp group, no type of satanic affiliations, no pro-black, pro-movement organizations. Anyone who falsifies the word of God and takes it out of its pure form, we are not associated with, tied to, or have any allegiance with. Please know and understand that King James Bible University, its elders, deacons, and brethren are sanctified and hold strictly to the guidelines of the Word of God in its pure form. And we do not in any way, no shape, form, or fashion, have any allegiance, fellowship, or ties to any of these preceding named or titled groups. King James Bible University stands alone in its teaching and respect to the Word of God and obedience to the instruction and commandments of His Word. This has been a public service announcement by me, Deacon Sampson, and I bid you all shalom.
Heavenly Father, in Jehovah, the one and true living God, my refuge, my strong tower. I stand before you, Father, in humility, knowing that only you, your wisdom, I can discern the difference between righteousness and wickedness, between life and death. But I let your words, Father, of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. But Father, you are my Redeemer, my strength, and my salvation. And I thank you for sending Jehovah to open up my eyes to the deception of this world, feeding me with strong meat, that I may grow in understanding and exercise my senses and distinguish between good and evil. And many labor for the things that cannot be satisfied, chasing after vanity, never realizing that the appetite of flesh can never be filled. The eyes of men are never satisfied. The hunger of the carnal mind is as a bottomless pit, consuming without end, always craving, never at peace. And I see this world has been given over to indulgence, consumed by the desires that leads to death. The mind of this people, Father, are set on flesh. And because of this, Father, they cannot find peace. To be carnally minded, Father, is death. And to be spiritually minded is life everlasting. And the broad road is filled with them who seek those pleasures, who pursue the lust of the eyes and pride of life. Yet, Father, they do not perceive the destruction that's ahead. They are laid by the appetites and that the devices them in convincing them to be fulfilled with just one more indulgence away. But it is the well, Father, that never quenches the thirst, the fire that never ceases to burn. You have sent the words of Jehovah to cleanse me from this type of pollution of this world. I ask, Father, let my delight be in your law. Let me meditate upon it day and night, that I may be like the tree planted beside the rivers of water, bringing forth fruit in this season. And when the drought of the wickedness comes, and when the famine of truth overtakes this land, let my roots remain deep in your word, unmovable by the winds of the falsehoods and the deceptions of this world. I ask, Father, to establish me with the words of Jehovah, that I may not be swept away with the wicked, that may not stumble, Father, and trapped with this indulgence of vanity. I see the daughters of Zion, the false senses of empowerment, abandoning, Father, humility and pride, exchanging of righteousness for vanity. They seek pleasures in the night, believing in freedom and found in rebellion. Yet, Father, they return home empty. Their souls thirsting for what they cannot be quenched. The daughters of Zion, Father, once walked in honor and in wisdom and in virtue, and yet, Father, now their feet abide not in their homes, but they have become prey to the very desires that chase. Their laughter is in the night, is soon turned to sorrow, the wages of sin and death. The sons, Father, the sons of Israel also has fallen to the same snare. They boast on conquest, defined by their worth and lust of the flesh, abundance of possessions, and the approval they seek of men. The darkness they have gathered, their speech is filled with the foolishness of the mind that they have consumed by the culture that exalts vanity over wisdom, and indulgence, Father, over discipline. They seek to prove their strength through reckless believing. They submit to the wisdom of weakness. Yet, Father, I don't see that the fools perish by their own stubbornness, and the ones who love danger will be consumed by it. So, Father, I ask that Jehovah let me not be counted among them. Let my steps be ordered by your law. Remove far from me the hunger of those things that is not for profit. Replace within me, Father, the hunger of the righteous. Let me hunger for righteousness and let me thirst for your truth, that I may be filled and that I may be satisfied, Father, that I may dwell in your house only, Father. I look to dwell forever, and let my heart not be drawn away by deception of the carnal mind, but those who set their affections, Father, on the things of this world and will fade away like grass. But those, Father, who abide with you shall never be moved. So I call upon the ways of Jehovah, to call upon the people who walk on that narrow path, that road that few will find in the ways of righteousness, a way of discipline, a way of order. The world desires the broad road, for it is filled with ease, pleasures, and indulgence, but it leads only, Father, to destruction. So I ask to let your way, Father, be set forth for life and death, blessings and curses, that you have called us, Father, out of the dark into this marvelous light to choose life. Let me choose, Father, life. Choose the ways of Jehovah. Let me not be deceived by the pleasures of this world, and for they are nothing more than a vapor of the very moment that one moment they are gone. Let me store up the treasures and not perish. Wisdom, understanding, obedience, these are the things of the riches that endure. So I thank you, Father. I thank you for sending Jehovah, for feeding my soul with the spiritual food. I thank you for strengthening me against the temptation of this world. Let me, Father, walk in righteousness. Let me stand in wisdom. Let me reject the false freedom of indulgence and embrace the true liberty that's found in obedience of your commandments. Let my mind stand on the things above and not on the things of this earth. My desires are transformed. No longer, Father, the cravings of this world, they're nothing more than a vapor. I seek the things that are eternal. Jehovah, let me never hunger for the things of this world, no more and never again. Let me be satisfied with your presence, filled with your spirit to establish your truth. So I want to dwell, Father. I want to dwell in the house of Jehovah, and I shall not be moved. I will always, Father, seek to always push away deceitfulness and sin that try to overtake me, because I trust only in you, in my portion, in my refuge. I seek you, Father, for my reward. So I say this, Father, and I say, surely the goodness and mercy that I seek you, that I may dwell in your house, Father, that you have established, the vessel of wisdom and anchored in your word. And I pray this, Father, in the name of Jehovah. In Jehovah, Father, I will only pray in. Amen. And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I'm the pastor here with the House of the Lost Sheep and also with King James Bible University. And I want to welcome each and everyone here. And today marks the day that we cannot turn back. We have to continually move forward. So before we get started, I do have a few announcements I do want to make, and also making sure that each and every person who wants to get more in-depth information today, you need to make sure you come into Zoom. And this is inviting each and every one to come in the Zoom today. This includes each and every one of other nations to come in there today, for this marks a special day. But we do have one thing we have to make. And that's one is where it was announced about a week and a half ago, we have reached the limit to where we cannot continue to keep getting a larger place based on the time constraint. But we're looking at the 2025 Passover. And we're going to be going in today in the back and get updates. And I want to make sure each and every one understand what's happening. It's a movement that's going on that most people don't understand. It's not a movement what people talking about with people, but it's a movement, it's a change that's happening. It has to happen. It has to go on today and start from here and as we continually move forward. So I'm asking that each and every one who is part of the Passover, make sure you attend there. And also the ones that are not, make sure you come into Zoom. And we also have the same thing that's going on later on this afternoon. We will be addressing Corey. I will be showing you some precepts and some understandings that people don't normally see to show you exactly why people who do things that such as this makes no sense. So I will be teaching on this, that Jesus is not God, but Corey pushes this. He pushes this over there with smart Christians, but he truly don't understand Scripture. So we will be dealing with that, and we'll be going through it, but it's not just Corey. So it's not just Corey, but this is Christians as a whole had this belief. So he didn't get that belief by himself. He came to that belief based on what he was taught. So we're going to be dealing with that. And that's today at 3 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Central time, 6 o'clock Eastern time. But I do want to get one thing, people to understand one thing. People come here, and we have to understand what this place is. This place, it tells you exactly what it is, and it shows you the same thing in the Bible. But this is the house of the lost sheep of Israel. Meaning you came here to find direction. You came here because you was lost. And you trying to find your way. Many of us have dwelled here for a while, getting an understanding on where we are and what we need to do. But you are still at this house of the lost sheep. And you see underneath it says, welcome prospect to the house of Jehovah. We're going to find out some things. And we need to make sure we learn some things on what is required to get in that house. The problem we have here today, and as we continually move forward, as I said before, and says it all the time, most of us is not going to make it. One second. And most people don't know why they're not going to make it. Because the main part of this is, the problem is, if you read the description, no matter what, people still operate in the carnal mindset. So we have to go through this and get a better understanding. So today, what we are going to do, we don't need no moderators today. We're going to let them go through this because this is going to be very important. We're going to be moving some very important information as we continually, from this day forward, go straight through. Because we got to know one thing. Within this house of Jehovah, today, I'm going to give you understanding. The contrast between celestial, terrestrial, between the spiritual minded and the carnal minded, between obedience and rebellion. So we have to take this serious look on the functions within the carnality of the own framework in which it operates in the realms of flesh. Because the misunderstanding of carnal, and this carnal existence is widespread, and many of us has been conditioned to view life through the lens of terrestrial, failing to grasp the superior structure of celestial order. So the carnal mind, it does not represent Keep this in mind. It does not represent individual desires or actions, but it's an entire governing framework, a structured system that is built upon the laws of flesh, meaning it dictating the thoughts, the ambitions, the behaviors in this continual opposition to the house of Jehovah, to where you won't be able to enter in there. So if you fully grasp this carnality, we must see the governing system, meaning the framework that dictates its own perceived realities, makes decisions, and seeks fulfillment. So we have to remember a few things. And we got to go through here. We're going to start looking at some scripture to get a better understanding. And let me put this up here and then and pull this back. We need Romans, and we're going to look at Romans chapter 8, but we're going to look at 6 and 7 because I want you to pay real close attention to what it says. And we're going to highlight that there. And he's telling us, it says, because the carnal mind is enmity against God and is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. So they that are in the flesh cannot please who? I want you to put in there, who is saying it cannot please. I want you to write, each and every one of you guys, write in there who it cannot please, because it's right in front of us. It's right there in front of us. I want you to admit out of your own mouth who it cannot please. It cannot please God. I want to make sure each and every one understand this. Because when we look at this carnal framework, we see it opposes to Jehovah's order, a system of self-rule, which desires and flesh establish its own laws rather than submitting to the own governance of Jehovah. So this doctrine cannot come from heaven, but this doctrine comes from the ground. Let's build on it. In James chapter 3, looking at verse 15, it tells us, it says, this wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. You're at the house. See, when we're looking at the carnality, it is not an indulgence of the flesh, but it's an active rebellion, refuses to really just chew the cud. And when we sit there to meditate on visions and dreams, prophecies, Jehovah has ordained these instructions. And I actually said a lot of these things for weeks and months and years. I have everyone. Did you meditate on this past lesson? And we get a lot of no's. But I have to tell you something while we at the door. In reality, just being honest about the entire thing, those who don't sit there and meditate, and they just didn't meditate that past week and this week, they not going in. I can promise you that, because they take it lightly. This is a lot of people. See, it's a rejection of spiritual discernment. It's a severance from a celestial order. It's an ensnarement within the terrestrial domain. There's a governance of flesh, precedence over obedience, divine law. So that's the deepest level or carnality. It eclipses revelation. A divine wisdom that's meant to guide the soul now becomes obstructed by the shadows of self-gratification of human reasoning. I want to make sure everybody clearly understand me today, because that's the only way we're going to be teaching from this way out. See, it's the nature of the carnal mind. The carnal mind prioritizes the immediate over the eternal. It's seen over the unseen. It's a self-willed divine instruction. So we have to understand the carnal framework is not exist within individuals. It's a systematic self-replicating structure. I'm going to say it again. It's a self-replicating structure that breeds defiance against the house of Jehovah. So if it breeds this, how can you enter into it? Because rebellion is not unconscious misstep, but it's a deliberate alignment with a terrestrial mindset posing self-rule, sensory, experience, and intellectual sex governing above the sovereignty of Jehovah. So I say this because scriptures validate this. It validates it. Why? We look at it, I just read it. We go back to Romans chapter 8, and we're going to look at verse 7. It says, because the carnal mind is enmity against God, and it cannot be subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. The carnal mind does not just struggle with divine instruction, but is actively resisting of it. It operates in opposition to the spiritual governance, elevating material success and pleasures above obedience, submissions to Jehovah's structure. We got to look at the same rebellion that they did in Eden, where the serpent deception brought new elements into existence, where he exalted knowledge apart from Jehovah, this self-will above the command, and was looking for immediate gratification. I want to show it to you. Let's look at that. Let's look at this Genesis chapter 3. Go and pick it up at verse 5. Immediate. And you see, it says, God do know that the day that you eat, you learn thereof, then your eyes, your understanding shall be opened, and ye should be as comparing gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman, so when our spirits, saw that this tree, was good for food, and it was pleasant to the eyes, it was pleasant to our understanding, in the tree and the elder to be desired to make one wise, our spirits, took of this work, that fruit thereof, and did learn. And gave also to her husband with her, and did learn of it. You see the issue. See, the carnal mind, as I said, the carnal mind don't struggle. The carnal mind legacy for the fall is perpetuating this fracture, this system where man seeks to govern himself outside the jurisdiction of the Creator. We're going to keep proving the point as we constantly move forward. Constantly. We have to look at this for what it is. In 1 Corinthians, picking it up at chapter 2, looking at verse 14, it tells us, it makes it clear. It says, but the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God. We don't receive those things, for they are foolishness to him. They're foolishness to him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. See, the carnal system has no access whatsoever to Jehovah's mysteries. It's a rejection of revelation because, one, you don't meditate on them no way. It says foolishness because it operates solely within the parmometers. I don't know why I can never pronounce that word. The parmometer, that little digital thing I'm trying to get you to see, but within the physical realm. And this is why many are here. You see the numbers, but it's more than that, because I'm looking at the back. But is more than that. But many are here, week after week, day after day, year after year. Do not chew the cud. Do not chew the cud. They do not meditate on the prophecies. They don't meditate on the vision. They don't meditate on the divine instructions. They choose to instead to meditate on the fulfillment over carnal things. The carnal mind they have is measured on success. The framework that distorts the man's vision, limiting perception, earthly success. These are silly things that men do. And we do them. We do these like they're nothing. And while we do those, we really want to understand what we're doing, because individuals, each and every one of us, we seek these temporary, forsaken, permanent inheritance of the house of Jehovah, and we seek these things which it tells us right there. And you're looking at Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 2, and it tells us, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher, vanity of vanities is all vanity. All is vanity. Why? See, the question becomes, why? Because carnality convinces us. It convinces each and every one of us that our purpose is tied to earthly achievements. Our purpose is tied to earthly achievements. In all pursuits of the flesh, eventually dissolves always to nothingness. But we look at wealth, reputation, indulgence, are all these temporary things. Yet, they are the foundation of the carnal system, proven in what we keep saying. Let's look at something. I want to show you to make sure we clearly get what's going on. In 1 John, looking at chapter 2, going to look at verse 16 and 17, but we want to understand it. 16, 17, get a better understanding. It's telling you, it says, for all that is in the world, the lust of the what? The lust of the, I want you guys to put it in there. The lust of, because I want to make sure each and every one of you guys are fully engaged in what's going on. So, in we talking about this lust of the what? I told you, we have a problem here. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh. We have to understand what it is. We have to understand, and then we got the lust of the what? We got the lust of the what? What else do we have the lust of? We had the lust of the, huh? Can you talk to me now? Can you continually talk to me? Because we got the lust of the flesh and the lust of the what? Because it's telling us it's right there. It's right in front of us. We got these lust of the eyes, the lust of these, understanding we just seen what they did in the garden. The pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. We have to fully understand what we're doing. Verse 17, the world passes away. The world is temporary, including the lust thereof. So the world is going to go away in everything in the world. But he doeth the will of the Father abide forever. See, we have to keep understanding what we're doing. We have a big problem here. We having problems here to where we need to understand what we're doing. Meaning this, many of us going to continually pursue earthly wealth. But we're going to language always. We're going to always be spiritually starving, destitute. But a paradox is rooted in this misguided ideas of material success. I don't care how we look at it. So we incorrectly seek eternal validation through temporal gain. Many pursuits leaves us spiritually impoverished, always. Let's look at something. We see this in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10. That's why I wanted to get there real quick. He says, he that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver. I don't care how much you love silver. You ain't going to be satisfied with it. How much you love women, I don't care how much you love women, you're not going to be satisfied with a bunch of women. Nor he loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity. It's vanity. without surrendering to Jehovah's governance, we remain spiritual orphans. We are sons of Jacob, yeah, but he got married to Israel. He got married to this spirit, and we want to be part of that. You follow me? I want you to stay with me on this. Don't look away now. We got to roll with this now. Because we have to look at everything that's going on. And why he says this, we are yearning for this adoption, and we're looking for the aspiration and what we're looking for. And we see this illuminates Romans chapter 9, verse 4, because it's telling you who are Israelites. Your prospects. Your prospects. To whom pertaineth to the adoption, in the glory, in the covenants, in the giving of the law, in the service of God, in the promises. This illuminates that. These gifts dissolves our orphanhood, we can say. They get rid of that orphanhood, we can say. And secure our belongings in God's family. So our yearning, we seek to be grafted in this adoption. And it's not merely an aspiration, but it's a fundamental plea to transcend from this estranged orphanhood to become who we really need to be. Let's look at something. In Romans, we're going to look at this. We're going to pick it up at Romans chapter 11, looking at verse 17. And we're going to see something real clear. And it tells it says, if some of the branches be broken off, they have to be. And thou being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them. And with them partaketh of the root and fatness of the olive tree. Let me tear this down a little bit. See, this grafting process is by which we cease to be wandering around in this spiritual wilderness that we're in today. See, we're longing to be grafted into Israel's adoption. We have to go there. It's not a desire for inclusion, but it's a plea for restoration. Did you catch it? It's a desire for inclusion, but a plea is not that desire for inclusion, but the plea for restoration. It's a call to transcend this entanglement, to reclaim our place, to be rightful heirs. So without this sacred kinship, we remain disconnected from the house of the eternal Father, no matter what. And we'll be wandering fugitive in this spiritual wilderness, vulnerable and removable, without a name, a covering, or a foundation. That's without a doubt. Let's look at something. You find this in Ephesians chapter 2. We're going to pick this up at verse 12. It says, a time you were without Christ. There was a time you was without Christ. A lot of people thought you was with Christ, but you wasn't with Christ. You thought you was with Christ, but you wasn't with Christ. Being aliens from the Commonwealth. Being aliens from the Commonwealth of Israel. Strangers from the covenant of promises, having no hope and without God in the world. But what happened? But now, in Christ Jesus, now in Jehovah of salvation, ye sometime were far off, are made nigh by the blood of Christ, by the lifestyle of Jehovah. We ain't as dumb as we used to be, according to Scripture. We ain't as silly as we used to be, according to Scripture. We not as silly and crazy about just thinking crazy stuff. excuse me, see, when we look to be estranged from the covenant, to be outside the inheritance, making us without the right of sonship, but those who are grafted and through the covenant, the adoption, and cease to be spiritual wanderers, they're brought near. They brought, hey, come on over here. See, many of us today have been given an identity. Many of us have been given an identity and secured in Jehovah's eternal household. Seeing only through this divine ordination, this adoption, what people really need to stop doing, which really is silly, and it cracks me up when I see it. You see, people need to stop claiming they're Israel. People need to stop claiming, oh, they got a sign-in thing where they Israel. I'm Israel. I'm the daughter. This is Israel. I'm the son. I'm this. And you put all these, you done changed all these silly things to your name. Do you know where you're standing today? Standing at the house of Jehovah. See, you was gathered from the house of the lost sheep. You now standing in training to understand how you can get in the house. You can believe it or not. You can bounce or keep on going. See, this is how this goes down. See, we are no longer to be servants, but to be God's children. So we have to sit there. And since we seek to be the child, seeking this divine adoption, it's why I say what I say, why I speak the way I speak, why I hold what I hold to. Let's look at something. And you're going to see him say this same thing. I'm going to say the same thing, but it says, but many as received him, he gave them power. To them gave he power to become sons of God, even to them that believed on his way. So you see the point. You see the point. See, we got to understand this, how this goes. Let's look at something. Let's look at something real close. In Galatians, we're going to look at this real close here. Galatians chapter 4, picking up at verse 5. And we're going to see some more salutations here, but we're going to look at verse 5. We're going to go down. It says, to redeem them that were under the law, according to the flesh, that we might receive the adoption of sons. And because ye are sons, God has sent forth his spirit of his son into your heart. You remember that? Let me show you something. In Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6, it tells us pretty slick. It says, for unto us a child is born, unto us that son is given. That's what he's talking about right here. In the spirit of his sons into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father, whereof thou art no more servant, but son. And if son, then ye are heir of God through Jehovah, through Christ. This is clear. But I want you to understand something. I want you to clearly understand something. We have a narrow path. We, all the ones that truly want to go, because I know everybody don't want to. A lot of people play this game, and I'm not here to be played with. Let's look at something. We're going to go over here to 2nd Idris, picking it up at chapter 8, but we're going to look at verse 1. I want to tell you something. Actually, we're going to take verse 1. Verse 1. And I want you to clearly understand what he's saying here. Clearly understand what he's saying here. Actually, I want to pick up another one. I'm going to pick up another one because I want to make sure we clearly understand what's happening here. Ephesians 4:24, we want that one. I want to make sure we understand something. But we want to look at 2nd Idris chapter 8 in verse 1. Why? He says, and he answered me, saying, the Most High have made this world for many. He made this world for many. That's why you see so many people out here. More than 8 billion people walking upon this earth today. But he says something. But the world to come for how many? Can you put in there how many? If we can read, we can write that in there. But the world to come is for how many? Because he's telling you right here. It's right here. It's clear. It's for few. We can say it how we want to. It's for few. See, when we're looking at the House of Jehovah, it's not an open invitation to all. It's not that kind of open invitation, you guys. It is a narrow, exclusive dwelling. Also, some is just hanging around like homeless people you see on the streets. But this is reserved for only those who are willing to undertake this journey, similar to walking a path so narrow it filters out the multitude who clings unto the broad venues of worldly desires. It is not a refuge for those who just profess a belief, change their names. That's the biggest crack up. They change their names. But you see these names even in the chat. You see them in the chat. You see, they got all these crazy names. Such and such, Israel, Israel this, Israel that. Salvation is inseparable from these radical severances from carnality grips. So, because death with this self-interest, vanity, temporal appetites, it dominates the human nature. It dominates it. Let's look at something. In Ephesians chapter 4, but we're going to pick it up at verse 22. I want to go to verse 22. It says, that ye put off concerning the formal conversation in the old man, this old male and female. You got to take that off, which is corrupt according to deceitful lust. We just went through that. We just went through this. Deceitful lust. It gets us caught up. But he says more. It says more. And be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Who in the hell is meditating on weekly lessons? Who in the world is doing their research? See, the ones who don't are the ones I can almost guarantee you not going to make it. Because you just hear. You just hear. And see, and I don't want the ones who just hear. I'm looking for the ones who put in work. I'm looking for the ones who always sitting there and say, man, I got to go in the gym. I got to put in some work. Them the ones I want. See, that renewed spirit of mind. And they put on that new man, that new male and female, which after God is created in righteousness, true holiness. This is true separationness. That's what it's doing. So the few who will enter that mark are undivided allegiance. This soul, this refinement. You're going to go through some things. We're going to go through a lot of different things. We're going to have a lot of different issues. We're going to constantly run through that. But we have to understand, we got to understand what the course is. In 1 Peter, we're going to look at something. 1 Peter chapter 1, but we're going to pick it up at verse 7. We're going to see something right there. And it tells us, makes it pretty clear. And it says that the trial of your faith. Oh, so we know we got to travel this road. And when we travel this road, we're going to sit there and we're going to have the trial of your faith being much more precious than the gold that perishes, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of, you see that again there, you see that Jesus Christ, this is salvation of Jehovah. It's not talking about a man. So we have to be willing to surrender these earthly attachments. Are you hearing me? We have to get rid of those. As we get rid of actually, I want to pull this one. We're going to pull something. In we're gonna grab something. We're gonna look at something. In we can find this in Luke 14:33. Luke 14:33. It says, so likewise, whosoever he be of, that you that forsake not all that he have. So if you not willing to forsake all that you have in this world, cannot be my disciple. You see, it cannot be my disciple. If you can't forsake all that you have here, you wasting your time. Actually, I want to make sure this can be seen real better. I was trying to move it over some. Because I know you can read it. It's saying disciple. I just wanted to make sure you see disciple good. He's saying you cannot be that. Because you have to be willing to surrender these earthly attachments. This exclusivity shows the urgency of this incremental compromise. So only complete fidelity to Jehovah safeguards your spiritual disqualification. Let's look at that. Let me make sure we understand what's happening. In Hebrews, looking at chapter 12, we're going to look at Hebrews chapter 12, but we're going to go down a minute. We're going to look at this for a second. We need to look at this for a second. Chapter 12, and we want verse 14. I want you to pay real close attention to what it's getting ready to tell you. It says, follow peace with all men, including holiness, separateness, without which no man shall see the Creator. So if you're not doing this, you're not going to see him. But it gets better. It says, looking diligently. Oh, dang. You got to be looking, dang. That's deep. That's deep. Lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. Key. But it gets better. Lest there be any fornicator. This is what I've been talking about. Lest there be any fornicator. This is what I've been, and it's a lot of you guys are here playing this game. Or profane person. A lot of you guys. As Esau, who for one morsel of doctrine sold his birthright. Yeah, a lot of us do it. For ye know how that afterwards, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected and found no place for repentance, for remembrance. Though, he sought it carefully with tears. I love the Lord. You know I love you. Really? That's interesting. See, this path demands a serious renunciation. You have to renounce this. This renunciation, if it's a word. I don't know. It might be a word. But anyway, I'm using the body. So renunciation of the carnal mind, which seeks comfort and familiar of temperance setting in this world. So the travel path, it requires this consciously for us to make these conscious decisions. We have to abandon our self-egos. We have to abandon these self-egos and embrace this life alignment with Jehovah's orders. So what do that mean? I'm going to tell you what it means. Let's look at something. We're going to go here back to 2nd Idris, but we want to look at something in 12. We want something in 12. Because I want you to understand this. Because this path, it requires a complete surrender of the carnal mind. You have to have a complete surrender of the carnal mind and a full commitment to Jehovah's order. This is not a path for the faint. It's not for the weak heart. It demands the full departure from this self-centered living of rejection in these temporal pursuits, and you have to exchange it for this eternal inheritance. Everybody stay with me, because you're going to see it here. It says, then were the interests of this world made narrow, full of sorrow and travail. There were few and there are but few in evils, full of perils, though. It's full of that. And it's very painful. It's very painful. Are you hearing me? Are you seeing the scriptures? Are you hearing me? Are you seeing the scriptures? Are you hearing me? Because I know you see it. I know you see it. The reason why I'm saying this, and we have to sanctify this dwelling. We have to reserve for the few who forsake the ways of the world and yield themselves entirely to the divine order of Jehovah. So remembering that many are born into this existence, into this world, yet many will attain eternal salvation, but few are willing to deny themselves, forsake the temporal, and embrace the eternal. So discipline is required. Because true discipleship demands spiritual severance from the carnal framework. This is what I'm telling you. You look at me as a brother, I'm the warning piece showing you what's going on. Allowing your soul to be purged, reformed, and aligned with Jehovah's will. I'm going to show you something to show you why it's doing this. Let's look at these salutations here. It's telling you in Luke chapter 16, but we want verse 13. I want you to clearly see this here. No servant can serve two masters. Can't serve two teachers. You can't serve two. That's impossible. Technically impossible. It says, for either you will hate one and love the other, or else you will hold the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. You can't do it. It's impossible. That's an impossibility. That's a 100% impossibility. But let's keep looking at this, because the path of Jehovah's kingdom in not one whose comfort to be compromised, but the separation and hardship and the painfulness is spoken here in the second Esdras chapter 7 verse 12. Tell you, the interest was made narrow and full of sorrow and travail, and they are few and evil and full of perils and very painful. We see it. We can't get around it because it's there. We can't get around it because it's there. So we understand that it's not about the tribulations of our life, but about the perilous cost of true discipleship, which includes forsaking relationships that binds you and I to the carnal world. That's what it does. We have to understand what we're doing here. We have to understand now so more on how we to navigate in this world. We have to really keep all this in mind. Understand this, and don't ever forget this. Don't ever forget this. When you come here, anytime anybody come here, from here on out, it's all about training. It's all about understanding what you need to do to get into the house of Jehovah. So to follow Jehovah, you, one, have to embrace division. Are you following me? You have to embrace division. Actually, I want y'all to put that in the chat. You have to embrace division. You write that in there. I have to embrace division. That's what I want you to see. I'm finna look at this chat because I want you to put, I have to embrace division. That's what you got to do. Why? Because it's not here to play games. We're not here to play this game anymore. Why? Because this is why I got this. We have to embrace that. It's not of hatred. It's not out of hatred of family members and friends and relatives, but it's about an absolute allegiance to the house of the Father. Why? He commanded it. I'm showing it to you because I had it there. We look at this. Let's look at Luke in chapter 14, verse 26. It says, if any man, male or female, if any man, male or female, actually, we won't tell you what, I'm going to put it over here because you're going to see who's talking. I want you to see who's talking. Luke, we're going to look at verse from chapter 14 because I want you to see who's talking. In 14, and you see it right here. And let me pull this up some. You see right there? It's right here. I want to make sure you can see it. And he's saying, if any man come to me and hate not his father and his mother, his wife and children and brother and sister, yea, his own life also cannot be my who? Cannot be my who? He's telling you right there, cannot be my who? He's telling you what he's doing. Can't be his disciple. This ain't about hating him. This is telling you about how this goes down. Meaning we can't be prioritizing them over God. We can't be prioritizing. We have to have this spiritual inheritance above all blood ties. If family opposes to the covenant or seeking to pull you away from Jehovah's obedience, then separation becomes the act of the token of loyalty to Jehovah. That's automatic. Automatic. Let's look at something. Let's look at something. Matthew chapter 10, picking it up at verse 37. It makes it pretty clear. It says, he that loveth father or mother more than me, not worthy of me. You think he playing? He's telling you right there. If you love mother or father more than you love God, meaning you're going to do something against God's will and you're going to go against it, you ain't worthy of God. Everybody capiche? Do everybody capiche that one? If you sit there and your mother or father want you to do something that's against God, against his ways, and you choose family, you choose your mother or father, you ain't worthy of the kingdom. Then guess what? You excused. You excused. It's that simple. And he that loveth son or daughter more than me. So if you love your son, you love your daughter, you sitting there, you want to hold to something that they want to do more than God, I don't care who they are. You see what he's saying? Your son or your daughter, and they want to do something that's worth more than God, more than him, you're not worthy of him. He's telling you right there, you excuse. All them who want to hold on to your sons and your daughters, well, you're my kids. Okay, you excuse. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you ain't going to make it. Because you're going to do something in here where you're going to screw it up. That I know. So the easiest thing for you to do right now is we sever ties right here. You stay over at the lost house of the sheep of Israel. Don't come to the doors of Jehovah. Don't come here. You wasting your time here. You go elsewhere. Let me make sure something is clear here. I want to make sure something is just really clear here. And we're going to find this in Luke. And we're going to see something. We're going to see something. We seeing he's saying, what are you going to say? We find this in Luke chapter 12, but we're on verse 51. And you see him talking here. He said, suppose ye that I come to give peace on earth. So I'm gonna translate this. He's saying, so you guys think he came to bring peace on earth. Is that what you really thought? Is that what you were thinking? He tell you, hell no. No, he ain't did that, but rather a division. He came to separate. This is a refinement process, a separation of those who value eternal above temporal. So we looking at discipleship is not a pursuit, it's forsaking. It is all about forsaking. This narrow path is perilous, and it's not because of these eternal traits and these eternal trials, this fleshly trial, but it's because one must be willing to part with all, including mother, father, wife, children, cousin, brother, friend, even your own life, and stand on the walls of the House of Jehovah. Anything less is unworthy of him. Are we clear? We should be very clear. Very clear now. Let's look at something. I'm telling you, this is the problem. This is the problem. In Matthew chapter 7, but picking up at verse 13, it says, enter ye at the straight gate. Enter ye at the straight gate. The straight gate. Why we got to enter at the straight gate? For wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there which be go in threat. Many are here right now. Many are here right now. But he got more to say. He got some more to say. Verse 14, it says, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way, which leadeth to life, and few. Remember we was putting it few. Few there be that find it. All them ones still holding to mama, daddy, daughter, son, cousin, husband, wife, and they want to do all these worldly, crazy things. You excuse. Find you somewhere else to go. Channel goes up and down. Go look at the dunk contest. Go do something, but you shouldn't be here. See, this broad way accommodates man's addiction. The broad accommodates that. Self-expressions without restraint, ambitions without accountability. See, this identifies the temporal validations. See, Jehovah's narrow path demands daily crucifixion of carnality. It demands that. Humility over pride. In service over self-promotion. This eternal treasure it transcends indulgence. Actually, I want to tell you what, let me pull something, make sure we all understand this. So as we getting this lecture here, as my kids like to call it, this is lecture 101 today. This is lecture 101 today. But this is Colossians chapter 3, looking at verse 5, it tells us, it says, mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth. So what you doing here, you got to mortify that. You got to mortify that. Are you? Are you? Fornication, are you mortifying that? Uncleanness, are you doing that? Uncleanness, indolent, affections, evil concupiscence, covetousness, and idolatry. You doing that? See, just like I said, only a few gonna find it. Because it just, I'm going to keep bringing back you to some of this memory. I'm going to keep going back every now and then, go to the memory, making sure you ain't forgot. It says, and be not conformed to this world. That's Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Don't be conformed to this world, and be ye transformed by renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. You hear me? Do you hear me now? So we reject these societal norms that glorify materialism and carnality, and they glorify them as freedom. See, when you're looking at true discipleship, it is walking backwards against cultural concurrence, things that's going on today. I want to show you something. I'm going to show you this. I just want you to see something. In Amos, I'm going to show you something in Amos. Amos chapter 7, I want to show you. You got to see this because it's actually kind of funny. And I want to pull this down. And watch what it says here because it's actually kind of funny. It says, thus he showed me. So this is Amos. He showed me, and remember, the Lord stood upon a wall made by a plumb line, with a plumb line in his hand. And the Lord said unto me, this is a crack up. I'm telling you, you got to read it in Paleo because it's a crack up. He said unto me, Amos, what seest thou? And Amos said, a plumb line. Then said the Lord, remember, I will set a plumb line in the midst of my people Israel. I will not again pass by them anymore. But yeah, I don't get it. I'm gonna tell you why you got to get it, and I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna see. When the Lord said unto me, Amos, he ain't saying Amos. Amos don't mean nothing but burden bearer. So he's a burden. So he says, burden bearer, what seest thou? Burden bearer, what do you see? I see a plumb line. Yeah, look at all this stuff you carry. You got your mama, your daddy, your brother, your sister, your children. You got your cousin, your brother. You got everybody with you. Burden bearer, what do you see? Many will not take this serious. And many going to think it's not real. Or just they going to think, I'm trying to make some hype. Okay. And it's not. See, this path is narrow. In this narrow gate, this entrance, but it's the process of sanctification, daily crucifixion. So the flesh, this daily resurrection of Christ and what we have to do. This gate is narrow, symbolized by this stringent criteria set forth by Jehovah. So those who wish to dwell with him, to pass through the straight gate, we have to transcend this carnal nature. We have to abandon the pursuits that binds us to the material world. We have to. It entails this transformative, this journey that towards this inward perfection, this outward alignment with the divine principles. So this journey demands we do this unwavering dedication, cultivating virtues such as, one, write them down. Humility, you need to write that down. Make sure you got that set in. You got to cultivate that virtue of compassion and righteousness. So we have to allow our rebirth into the spiritual being, fully committed to this eternal communion with the Father. We have to. If not, we're wasting our time. Because when we're looking at this, walking the path, we have to more so reject the temporal comfort of carnality and embrace the internal inheritance of the Spirit. So few. You got to get back to the few will find this path. Those who recognize the eternal life is not attended through worldly success, but through obedience and sacrifice of unwavering faith. I want to tell you a secret. Because you're here. So I can share this secret with you. See, did you know this? See, people are going to get shocked. Everybody. The same as I tell people. I say, when I first meet you, I trust you 100%. That's me. But I get that from somewhere. So it's not me making that up. I learned that. I learned that from the Most High. That's where I learned that from. Why? Because all of us, y'all should be sitting down. Make sure you're sitting down. All of us is given 100 talents. Every single that blame one of us is given 100 talents. All of us. And some gonna refine 30 talents. Some going to do 60 talents, and some will refine 100 talents of them. That's what happens. Each talent demands a complete dismantling of a carnal identity, each one. So the journey of self-denial, purification, and divine refinement. So to walk the path to reject the temporal, shifting one's focus to the everlasting place. So the house of Jehovah is not built upon the foundation of worldly logic at all. At all. Personal aspirations, material elevations, but absolute submissions to Jehovah rulership. Because we all was made upright. We was all made to have 100 talents. And it's the ones you refined. I told you we going to get set up. We getting set up. See, few were fine, but willing to relinquish control of the flesh and strip away their fleshly attachments and step into the realm where the spirit thrives in obedience and discipline. So we got to think about something. When you come in here, Jehovah has made this statement for us all to understand. He got this statement here. I want to show you his statement because he made a clear statement to all of us. And we'll find this in Isaiah chapter 55. We want to see 55, but we want to look at verse 8. And watch the statement he's making to us, because we got to clearly get the statement. He says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. Did you get it? For my thoughts, but this is the Lord talking. For my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. See, I'm just quoting what he's saying. He's saying he ain't rolling our way. So now you're comparing the heaven are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. He's letting you know exactly where our place is. So we have to remember carnality thrives in human logic. Security, wealth, identity, appearance. But the proposal of achievement is where the issue is. Let's look at something. Let's look at these. We just rolling along. In Luke chapter 12, picking it up at verse 15, he tells us something, makes it real clear. He said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness. For a man, so a male or female life, consists not in the abundance of things which he possesses. Yeah, dang, that's deep. That's deep. You see, that was deep. Boy, that kind of hit us. I wasn't set for that one yet. I wasn't set for that. I wish I could have braced myself for that one, but that's okay. In James chapter 1, verse 2, we're looking at something. It says, my brother, count it all joy when we fall into divers temptation. Yeah, because he said we're going to go into one. He told us this. He was being upfront with us. Knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. Key. But let patience have her perfect work, that may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. That's key. So we understand how this goes through. So the hardship of holy refinement is what we're looking for. I want to pull up 2 verses to make sure we get this. So we want to see certain things that's going through here. So we're going to find one. We're going to look at this in Job. We want to see Job 23 and 10, I believe. 23:10. And we also want Matthew. No, we'll tell you what. Let's go to John. I want John. Let's go to John. John would be a better look. John 15. John 15:18. We'll go look at the other one in a minute. So we see here. In 23:10, it says, but he knoweth the way that I take. When he had tried me, I shall come forth as gold. That's key. That's a key point. Why? Because Jehovah, within his framework, he's prioritizing eternal outcomes over instant relief, meaning according to the flesh. Why? You look at John chapter 8, 15, verse 18. If the world hates you because you're going to live a certain lifestyle, you're going to live the way you trying to follow Christ. So if the world hates you, ye know that they hated me before it hated you. So we need to understand that. We have to clearly get that. So we have to walk, meaning we have to live obscurity to what's going on. Meaning, when we're looking at this, you'll see this also in Matthew 6 and 6. It's telling us this. In Matthew 6:6, it's saying this. It said, but thou, when thou prayest, enter into the closet. And when thou hast shut the door, pray to the Father which is in secret. And the Father that which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Yeah, he is. That's what he'll do. That's what he do for us. So we have to labor. We have to labor this thing. We have to do this thing and keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Stop sitting there and thinking we can't do nothing. We have to labor without seeking. Oh, what I'm gonna get for it? What I'm gonna get for that? What I'm gonna get for it? We got to get out of that. We got to get out that rat race. We'll look at something a little bit closer in Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 and 24. It says, so whatever I do, do it wholeheartedly. Do it heartily. Okay? Just do it heartily. 1 second. So whatever you do, do it heartily. Comparing to the Lord and not unto men. You do it to God. Don't worry about what men think about what you're doing. Do it wholeheartedly. It says, knowing that the Lord ye shall receive the reward of the inheritance. For you serve the Lord Christ, the Creator, Jehovah. That's who you serving. It's clear. But we have to learn how to relinquish that control. We have to learn how to relinquish control to make sure we're holding on to the right thing. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 19, he's making things very clear for us. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. So we don't try to sit there and think to do things for God with our carnal minds. He gave you a book with instructions. He gave you a servant to give you understanding. But he said, for the wisdom of this world is foolishness to God. Not to sit there where we try to come up with things for it. It says, for it is written, he that taketh the wise in their own craftiness. Many people take this book and they use it for their own craftiness. That's crazy. It's crazy. Because when we align with what we're supposed to be doing, let's look at this. In Colossians 2, and we're going to look at verse 3. It says, in whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. It's telling you, all this is hidden. When we're looking at man's reason, it's just entrenched in immediacy. Meaning they're looking for self-preservation. They're looking for self-personal gain. The House of JEHOVAH operates under a celestial framework. So when you come here, it operates under something different. This is why we get in the rules of the house. It operates on a celestial framework that transcends human comprehension. It's a testament of a fact of a divine way and infinite and superior to any human way. The House of JEHOVAH is not a structure that accommodates compromise, half-hearted devotions, or seeking desires. It requires total relinquishment of the carnal man, allowing the spirit to be wholeheartedly governed by the divine allegiance and intelligence. So when we understand this, carnality craves instant, don't forget it, instant fulfillment, while the spirit walks and demands wanting. No, it demands waiting, endurance, trusting in the unseen. The truly dwells in the house of JEHOVAH. One must abandon human calculations. surrendering the illusions to control, to embrace the higher calling that defines earthly understanding. Only those who forsake the comfort and familiarity and submit to the eternal blueprint and be counted worthy to stand in the Father's presence. Not only we're here to build a house, but you're sitting there saying many be using a failing framework of carnality, structured in this inevitable collapse under the weight of worldly pursuits. It's going to happen. So we're here to construct a dwelling place that is fit for the Most High, one that is crafted using the most expensive element in the world. The most expensive elements in the world. It's the only way we can craft a dwelling place for the Most High. And these elements is obedience, holiness, sacrifice, and a whole bunch of faith. The narrow path, it's not for those who wish to balance between two worlds. Those who have utterly reject temporal attachments, those instead choose to inherit the incorruptible, unshakable, internally established in Jehovah's kingdom. That's what it's seeking. The carnal mind, it functions as a closed system. This closed system it functions as. Endless pursuit. It never completes. It never fulfills. It never rests. It's designed to ensnare. The soul cycles on indulgence, where monetary pleasures mistakenly for true fulfillment. Every indulgence leaves the participant emptier. When you participate in that kind of silliness. The world conditions of men and women, they craves excess, perpetuating illusions. Even that, how you see them, that one more drink, that one more night out, that one more material possession that will only finally be satisfied. No. Reality. The carnal system is never meant to satisfy. It's built to keep one perpetually enslaved in pursuits. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You got to remember where the wisdom is coming from. It's coming from here. It's coming from the Word of God. In Ecclesiastes chapter 1, picking up at verse 8, we see it there. It says, all things are full of labor. Man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied. The understanding not satisfied. The seeing nor the ear filled with hearing. You see it. But let me pair two with it. Let me put two with it. We're going to look at Proverbs 27 and 20. And we also want Ecclesiastes 12 and 12. Because it says, hell and destruction are never full, and so the eyes of man are never satisfied. So the understanding is never satisfied, ever. Why is he saying it this way? Because you're going to see it. It says, and further by these, my son, be admonished for the making of many books. There is no end. And must study his word in this of the flesh. It happens. Get the book of this, get the book of that, get the book of this, get the book of that, get the book of this, get the book of that. You need to understand what the words mean. Get the book of that. Understand that. As it goes again, he that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver. Ecclesiastes 5 and 10. We never get satisfied. So modern cultures weaponizes dissatisfaction to keep your heart distant from divine sufficiency. I want you to clearly understand what I'm saying here. Let me pull this a little bit closer to where we can understand it. I want to take it a little bit closer. We're going to look at Philippians. And we're going to see Philippians chapter 4. And we want this in verse 11. 4 and 11. We're going to come back. It says, not that I speak in respect of want. Not that I'm speaking in respect of want. For I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith be content. Therewith to be content. But it gets better. Because I'm going to take it all the way down here. I want to grab all this. I'm going to take this down to here. It says, I know both how to be abased and I know how to abound. And everywhere in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. See it here. The cycle of dissatisfaction, when we look at the other side, it traps you into a system that can never be completed. Continuous striving. That's why people strive for these idols and things of that sort. You see them constantly going at these. They constantly looking for that next best thing. Let me go find this guy, he's talking, he's saying got good hype. You see in Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 13, it says, for my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of the living waters, the living knowledge, and hewn them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water, no knowledge. This is what's going on here. This is why it happened this way. Only spiritual hunger, Jehovah's presence, breaks this bondage. Only that. This is why we have to get more bent down in what we're doing. In Psalms chapter 107, but we're going to look at verse 9. It tells us real clear here. It says, for he satisfieth the longing soul and filleth the hungry soul with goodness. We have to remember something. The design of the carnal world, as I spoke to you, the carnal world, is rooted in perpetual labor. It's not physical work, not just physical work, but it never quenched by material pursuits. This is why so many of us, we chase pleasures, we chase status. We chase validation. You can't tell me we don't, because we do. We chase those. And then we'll find ourselves returning for more. We're looking for more pleasures. We're looking for more status. We're looking for more validation. Never reaching the point of contentment. Never looking at for what it really is. And it's simply an addiction, a captivity. Self-indulgent that becomes a chain that binds the soul to the flesh. This trap, this carnal mindset, it's like a cancer. Plays out differently among men, plays out differently among women, but their root remains. The same cravings for escape. And to escape this identity for validation outside Jehovah's divine order. So the carnal mind is inherently insatisfiable. See, it's perpetually seeking gratification, never finding true fulfillment. It's not limited to the physical desires, but it's ensuring that no matter what, how much is required, pleasure, wealth, status, is never enough. I want you to remember something. Everybody write it in there, because I want you to remember something, because it's going to get serious in a second. I want you to remember this word, appetite. Appetite. Just think about it. But just write it down, make a note of it. Appetite. This indulgence, this extends beyond the physical. It evades the mental, emotional, and spiritual realms. Appetite. It's seeking thrills. It's compounding its emptiness. It consumes the mental, the emotional, the spiritual dimensions. Each one continues to operate in the carnal, continuous pursuit of pleasures, ensuring that no amount of indulgence ever fully satisfied the soul. So this reflects the culture practice today, where this self-indulgence becomes normalized. It expands the spiritual well-being. Appetite. We're going to get deep into this. So it's a celebration of self-care, social activities, veers into excess, distracting individuals from the spiritual aspirations and leading them further into bondage, fleeing desires. So the carnal mind is relentless. It's relentless drive for more, and it leaves us caught in a cycle of indulgence that promises monetary happiness but results into spiritual emptiness. What am I talking about? We're going to talk about men and women. We talk about the women first. Ladies always first, right? Women's indulgence. Girls' night out. I know y'all heard that sound before. Girls' night out. I know you heard that before. Girls' night out. You see this. You see girls' night out. This is what I want you to see and understand how this works. To understand what this is all about. To get a better understanding on why this works a certain way. This girls' night out. Don't you ever forget how this actually rolls through. I want you to get a very good understanding on this girls' night out. It's a culture. See, even what you see in reality TV, gratification of slander. They do gratification and glorification of slander. It reflects Babylonian chaos. Women who is loud and stubborn. Actually, let me show you this. I want to put that up there. Make sure you understand where I'm coming from. We'll see this in Proverbs in chapter 7, verse 11. It says, she is loud and stubborn. Her feet, her desires abide not in her house. It don't abide there. It don't abide there. And what it does is more. If we're going to look at something. In Ephesians chapter 4, picking it up at verse 29, it makes it clear. It says, let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use in edifying it to that it may minister grace unto the hearers. But how is that doing it? What they doing is they doing a culture of acceptance. Girls' night out. It's an empowerment, nothing more than a lie, beneath a disguise of freedom. This self-care, it lies in the carnal ritual that draws women further into rebellion, spiritual depletion. This is a societal framework that's cleverly packaged as like a hallmark of empowerment, self-care, of freedom. But it's portrayed in many obscure, and it deepens in the concern and reality. But this is a pathway for a carnal ritual, not only glorifies, but it actively entrenches women in a pattern of rebellion, excess, and vanity. Looking at the fundamental values of discipline, self-control, and subtlety, but compelling. So when we look at this, cast aside, it replaces this tantalizing promise of this monetary, this pleasure, fleeing gratification. It lures the form of parole bonds. indulgence. So we understand the haughtiness that reference the echoes of this preoccupation, this self-image. You see it. I showed it to you. You see it. These are actual pictures of girls' night out. Actual pictures. Carnal system design. Never find fulfillment. Never finds fulfillment. But they hold to it. They believe this is fine. This is fun. It's cool. It's not bad. It's cool. All things are full of labor. Man cannot utter it. And the eyes is not satisfied in seeing, nor the ears filled with hearing. So this phenomenon, this culture, girls night out, which promises empowerment, freedom, that delivers this temporary excitement. Women who are lured by this cycle of excess where they pursue this. Pleasure becomes an endless endeavor, leaves the soul depleted. Labor is described, and I just showed you in Ecclesiastes. The physical, you sit there and you look at this relentless effort to fill a void only deepens each attempt of gratification. I want to show you to where we get a better understanding of this. The better understanding of this. To where we can get this real clear and where we can pay more attention to what's happening. So I want you to see this here in Isaiah. And we're going to go Isaiah chapter 3, looking at verse 16. We're going to pick this up and we're going to get a better understanding of this. And we see what's happening here. It's going to tell you more about what's happening clear as day. Isaiah chapter 3, looking at verse 16, it says, moreover, Lord saith, the Spirit of God said, because the daughters of Zion are haughty. They're haughty. They walk, they live with stretched forth necks and warning eyes, walking and menacing as they go, making a tingling of their feet, their desires. That's what they do. They do this like clockwork. They do this like it's nothing. These haughty daughters of Zion are more with just pride. They rejection of humility, of this divine order. So today, this haughtiness manifests into this culture that equates to this self-worth. And you see, and they do it for social media likes, material possession, outward beauty. Modern women bombarded with messages telling her validation and becomes this world approval. Not from relationships with Jehovah, Girls Night Out becomes a ritual, self-worship, where women celebrate their independence, rebellion against Jehovah's orders. This mindset is not only harmless, but it deepens the rebellious, and this rebellion is that elevate above God's and His design in womanhood, where it becomes this other form. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's look at something. And we'll see this in Lamentations. We'll pick this up. And we're going to go to Lamentations, look at 4 and 6. And it says, for the punishment of the iniquity of the daughters of my people, greater than the punishment of the sin of Sodom, that was overthrown, comparing in a moment, and no hand stayed on her. See what's happening here. The seriousness warning focuses on critical truth, culture, indulgence, embrace that many women today carries. The consequences are severe and crafty, outright destruction, where Sodom experienced swift, visible downfall. The daughters of Zion face this more treacherous threat. This one is slow. This one is corrosive, decay. As he's telling you, it's a slow decay of their spiritual essence. So the same culture today, women inherit the one where their indulgence is not just permissible, but celebrated, blurring the lines between the self-care and self-indulgent, empowerment and excess. This indulgence not just leads to empowerment or freedom, but instead it masks this gradual erosion of the core of spiritual values, slowly dimming the light of inner peace and contentment in connection with Jehovah. All those who hold to that, they can be dismissed also, because they can make their own truth. Key thing here is the consideration for contemporary women and these contemporary women. Redemption over rebellion. When you embrace in the spiritual path, it values redemption, forgiveness, and this personal growth over vanity and rebellion. Contentment over gratification, over constant gratification, cultivating the inner peace. This contentment, it does not rely on fleeting moments of pleasure. Validation that deepens an abiding relationship with Jehovah. You have to look at humility over vanity, striving for this embody this humility and compassion and grace. Accountability over abandonment. Choosing to be accountable over oneself, one's family, one community. Understanding that true freedom comes with responsibility. Transformation over comfort. You got to understand, seeking genuine spiritual transformation stands in opposition in conforming to the pattern of this world. So we got to understand the key aspects and what we got to do and what we're doing. So it's clearly seen when we see these things and we understand how everything goes. When we go here, we're going to put up something. Actually, I want to make another comment real quick, though. And we want to see something because it's clearly warned when we see and understand the spiritual. Because it's telling you, it says, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whatsoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Keep that in mind. And we know here it's telling you, wine, faith, joy, blessing is a mocker, strong drink and raging. It's not wise. So visual wise, alcohol becomes the central social gathering, leads to lowering your ambition to compromise your decisions, creating vulnerability and spiritual moral compromise. We have to understand that. You want to see this, and main thing is they want to sit there and say this is innocent. That's why I was showing that. They say that's innocent. And you have some of these women that are married. But that's innocent, girls' night out. But you can see that's bait. That you see that men to see, and they out there saying this is harmless. But it's bait. It's bait out there to where they seeing what else might be attracted. But this is bait. This is a culture that's not looking for Jehovah to come into his house. This is why we have those problems. This culture is seeking attention through provocative dressing, behavior that reflects the spiritual void. Actually, let me show you something right here now. Proverbs chapter 7. Picking it up at verse 10. It says, remember, there met him a woman. Never forget it. Met a woman with the entire of a harlot and subtle of heart. She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. You see it right here. With the entire of a harlot. You see it. You see this entire of a harlot. They just thinking they having a girls' night out. It's just a girls' night out. But they have the entire of a harlot. Can't get around it. And they'll tell you that's harmless. They'll tell you that's nothing about it. So we have to remember what this is all about. The social gathering become this breeding ground for gossip, negative speech. We see this all here. All this is here. Pick it up a little bit more. We'll go over here to Proverbs, looking at chapter 11, verse 13. It tells us even more. It says, a talebearer revealeth secrets, but he that is faithful spirit concealeth the matter. Can't get around this. the responsibility on what we do. True fulfillment comes not through fleeing pleasures or worldly validation, but through aligning ourselves with divine principles. Instead of seeking to escape potential harmful social practices, we should be pursuing genuine spiritual growth, meaningful relationships, and active uplift. Then you have this other mean thing, men's indulgence. It's better called locker room culture. Locker room culture. It's a beast of a matter. It's a true beast of a matter. Proverbs chapter 3 and 4, it says, "Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck and let them the table of thy heart, and thou shalt find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and men." But locker room culture. The carnal mindset, it have men through pride, indulgence, domination, this framework that embodies this cancer. Locker room culture, this toxic system where masculinity is defined through access, conquest, and power, rather than wisdom, leadership, and discipline. So this culture, it exceeds and exalts arrogance, recklessness, this sensual indulgence, leading men away from righteousness in the depths of spiritual decay. You have men that is so silly, these men. They're conditioned to be measured by their sexual exploit, their lusts, their material accumulation of greed, their domination over others with pride, values contrary. I'm going to show you something. We see this constantly. In Matthew, we're going to look at Matthew chapter 20, and we're going to look at 25. It says, "And Yahushua called them unto him and said, Ye know that princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you." But it is. But it is. See, what we got to remember, we're going to come back over it, but I want you to remember something. In Genesis chapter 3, looking at verse 5, when the serpent was talking to us, "For God do know that the day that you learn thereof, then your eyes should be open, and you should be as gods." You should be as gods. This is the biggest, silliest, stupidest thing that men do. Ignorance. To the 100 power. "But it shall not be so among you." Why? Because Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. Because you want to be a god. You have many men, they come here. Many seek to teach, not out of the hunger for God. They want to exercise dominion, authority over people. That's what you see. That's why you see many people, a lot of times, they can't make it through. That right there. They want dominion. They want people to look up to them. They want people to sit there and hold them for who they are. "Oh, I'm this. I'm that." You're a fool. You're a fool. We're here to serve. But it says more here. It says, but it not shall be so among you. Whosoever will be great among you, let him be the minister. You got to be the servant. And whosoever will chief among you, let him be your servant. Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto. That's why when we have people trying to minister to me, that's why I check you. But to minister and to give life and ransom for many. I want you to understand that. That's, when they do that, that's a Satan characteristic. You just seen it. Because you want to be a God. You want to put yourself in a position to be a God. And that makes no sense. In Proverbs, picking up at chapter 14, verse 29, it tells you, and it's real clear here. And it says, he that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalts folly. This locker room mentality fosters a spirit that's haste with arrogance, unchecked indulgence, promotes foolishness over discernment, pride, just over humility. People are supposed to hold them at some level. Silliness. Feel they can't speak to people. Feel they can go in a room and now people got to look up to me because I'm this guy. This self-glorification over godliness. See, this mentality, it degrades the true masculinity, turning men into slaves of their own lusts and appetites. Remember I told you about appetites? Keep that in mind, rather than being servants of Jehovah's order. Carnal man reduces women, which reduces women to mere objects, speaking to them in cruel ways. They my B's, they my H's. And what's worse, women will hear them saying that, and some of them are entertainers, you still buy their music. Not just the men, the women. Not just the men, the women also. In Ephesians chapter 5, looking at verse 3, it says, but fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named amongst you, as becometh saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolishness, no foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather give thanks. You got men boasting about sexual encounters. They want to put mark. I got another mark on me. I got this woman. I got that woman. Yeah, I done had this many women. Glorifying themselves. Jeremiah 9:23 speaks on this. It says, thus said the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. Look how many women I got. Hey, bro, come here. Let me tell you how you get these women. Let me tell you what you do here. Neither let the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches. But let him that glory in this, that he understand and knoweth me, that I am the Lord. I am the Spirit of God, which exercises loving kindness, judgment, doctrines and teachings, and righteousness in the earth. And in these things I delight, saith the Lord. He's clear. He's pretty clear. We have these jacked up behaviors trying to prove always masculinity. Have you ever seen that? Where we have these jacked up behavior where we always proving our masculinity. You see it. You can see it all over the web. You even see it when you're out and about. Always everybody wants to show their masculinity. In Sirach, it tells us in 3:26, it says, "The stubborn heart shall fare evil at the last, and he that loveth danger shall perish therein." Yeah, I tell you what, when I was coming up, most of you guys might have seen Evil Knievel, Ultimate Masculinity, jumping across the Grand Canyon and doing all this kind of crazy stuff. You see people, they putting swords down their throats and doing all these things. And the carnal man seeks those things. The carnal man, he avoids vulnerability. Which hinders his wisdom and correction, leading to the spiritual stagnation of his emotional ruin. So today, many men attempt to validate their masculinity through dangerous stunts, as I was just telling you. They do it. Based on reckless behavior, believing that the risk and the riskiness affirms their manhood. It affirms their manhood. This is not nowhere close to strength. It's foolishness, leading not only to destruction, but those who recklessly pursue thrills and dangers and walking in the cursed path. These are men. Men do this. One of the biggest things men love to do, men love to do, they suppress their emotions. Men are told expressing emotions is a sign of weakness. They taught that. Instead of seeking wisdom and accountability and healing, they bottle it up. They bottle it up. They build bitterness, rage, emotional dysfunction, dangers that mix. It leads to a broken relationship, spiritual stagnation. Then the carnal man refuses to seek wisdom or correction, believing that vulnerability and weakness is there. Yet they suppresses the truth, causing this spiritual stagnation. So what they do, they walk around with these unchecked emotions, particularly rage and pride that corrode the soul. So you have these cultural traps of men, that this emotional prison, this process, this pain. They can't meet the weakness. They seek the righteous correction. So this inability to express and to confess their weakness leads to this self-destruction, reckless. What's going on? This assumption of spiritually immaturity. So the carnal system operates on this sophisticated trap designed to ensnare men. This cycle of lust, this appetite, masquerading a freedom while systematically eroding their spiritual integrity. It's toxic. It's toxic to each and every one of us. To the man. It's a system designed to nourish pride by starving your soul. It leaves men spiritually barren, emotionally dysfunctional, incapable of leading in righteousness. True masculinity is not found in indulgence, but discipline and wisdom and submission to the laws of Jehovah. Some of the worst ones. You got these ones that one of my sisters was telling me about, and then I had to do some research. They talking about these passport bros. Passport bros. I just didn't have time to get the videos and pictures on it. passport bros. I wanted to show them so badly. But this is the carnal system, this predatory spiritual economy. And I want women to know what these boys are. Closed circuit in this insatiable hunger, masquerading their liberation. These men, at the core of his system, operates on this demonic engine. There's two of them. It's two engines they're working on. Lust and appetite. Lust and appetite. Don't ever forget this. And to give us understanding, to really understand what a passport bros are, this is a phenomenon where black men travel abroad, having casual sexual encounters with women and men. Passport bros. Another extension of locker room culture, deception. It combines the worst aspects of lust and indulgence. This escapism. It's a broken masculinity. This spiritual, nothing but a cancer of lust that enslaves men to this endless cycle of craving in a debt that can never be paid. Hunger that can never be satisfied. Each indulgence, it deepens the void and it's ensnaring the fulfillment and just goes deeper and deeper. So rather than confronting their spiritual shortcomings, their wounds, these men seek pleasures in foreign lands, equating sex with fulfillment, the carnality with escape. This pursuit hollows them completely out, leaving them spiritually depleted, incapable of moral compromise. These are nothing but carnal appetites that they do, thinking they done did something. They done went on this excursion with the boys, going to these foreign lands and sleeping with women and men. And men. And it demands this continual feeding, never results in contentment, but it thrives on excess, mocks discipline, it weaponizes sacredcy, convincing man that one more indulgence brings the satisfaction. It's an appetite prison, ensuring men will never escape this cycle, this indulgence, this depletion that happens. Let me go a little bit closer on this. Let me go closer on this. In Sirach chapter 18, we're going to look at something. 18 and verse 30. It says, "Go not after thy lusts, but refrain thyself from thy appetites." Oh, wow. Appetites. Because it can never be filled. This carnal system thrives on lust and appetites. This infestation relationship that enslaves these men's souls in perpetual craving. They need to break free of this. Must crucify the flesh of this passion that they have. Embrace the governance of Jehovah's house, this true fulfillment found not in indulgence, but in obedience. So we got to understand this traveling from country to country. These sexual exploit ties directly to fornication, bringing these women back, unknown diseases. Let's look at something. And we'll see this in First Thessalonians. First Thessalonians, let's look at this. 1 Thessalonians 4:3. I believe it's 4:3. It says, "This is the will of God, even your sanctification, that ye should abstain from fornication." It's right there. you should abstain from fornication. Every one of you should know how to possess his vessel in sanctification and honor. Every one of us should know how to tame ourselves. Avoid this strange thing. I'm talking to the men. We should have enough common sense to know how to sustain ourselves. We gonna go across the country to sleep with these people, thinking we hiding ourselves. Ye adulterers, James 4:4, ye adulterers and adulteress. Know ye not that a friendship with the world is enmity to God? Whosoever therefore will be a friend to the world is an enemy to God, is an enemy of God. This is clear. Y'all dismiss who do this silliness. Passport bros. Fueling the fire, their own consumption. Remember that this appetite burns through your spirit. Make you a barren wasteland where wisdom, peace resides, and your hunger cannot never be satisfied or filled. To understand this, I might go through that, and I might do that probably in Zoom. I might do that in Zoom to break down this unbreakable chain of this appetite. This unbreakable chain of this appetite on men. On men. The battle between carnality and spiritual is not a simple struggle, discipline. It's a war of the soul, not one eternal destination, but it hangs in the balance, but it's the carnal mind is death. Slow descent in his life consumed in indulgence, excess of this unfulfilled craving, leading to death, destruction. Because it goes back to what we started with. It goes back here. Romans 8:6. But to be carnally minded is death. To be carnally minded is 100% death. Many of us going to have this issue. Those who choose the carnal path live this cycle of this indulgence, seeking pleasures, validation, and fulfillment through these carnal ways. It's never going to be satisfied. I want to show you something as we close up here. I want you to see something. And we're going to see this in the law. Understand what's going on in the law. In Deuteronomy chapter 30, we're going to look at verse 19, it tells us pretty clear. He says, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, against each and every one of us, that he has set before you, that I set before you, life and death, blessings and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thy and thy seed may live. So we need to learn how to mortify our members. We need to know where you are. Many of us has chosen to go another way. Look at something else. So I say to each and every one as we continue to understand what we're dealing with, to understand what we must do. Because if you believe you're going to have a carnal mind and you're going to come into this house, the house of Jehovah, you're gravely mistaken. Those ways, you're gravely mistaken. Many people is not going to make it. based on those alone. So hopefully you guys got some understanding from that as we move forward. So we're going to get ready to move over to Zoom. I'm going to go back there for a little while. I'm not going to be back there for long, but same as I said, we will be doing a teaching later on this afternoon. Jesus is not God. No possible way, no way possible. And we will be going deeply into that. So we're going to make sure you have your pencils and papers on that one, because we're going to show you some things that's going to be clear as day for you on this. So just make sure of that, but we're going to go in the back. We want to get some updates on the Passover, because I do know we have some updates there that we got to make sure of as we continually move forward. And then we have everybody who comes to the back, and then we're going to do some other updates about some other things that's happening and what's going on. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and tomorrow we will be having Deacon James, and I know we have Deacon Jonathan, and we have also Deacon Hicks. Those three brothers will be teaching on tomorrow. So we have to look forward to that also. And so I say right now, as we prepare to get ready to go into the Zoom area, I say, hopefully that you guys got a lot of information from there. And I say until we meet again, I say to each and every one, until then, shalom.